Hi, boys and girls. So for today's lesson, we're going to add and subtract mixed numbers using fraction sticks. So if you remember, we did use these in school. Okay, so I'm going to show you two ways to do this. One using the fraction sticks and the other using the standard algorithm, which means lining up our numbers and adding or subtracting. Okay, so here in this first group of fraction sticks, we have 1 2/5. And here we have 2 wholes and 4/5. Okay, so when we add them, we line up our whole numbers with our whole numbers and our fractions with our fractions. Okay, just like we would line up ones with ones and tens with tens. Okay, so I'm going to start with the fraction column. Okay, so 2/5 plus 4/5. I know my denominator stays the same, and I add my numerators. 2 plus 4 is 6. Then I add my whole number. 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, now we have a mixed number with a whole number, 3 6/5. Now, I can't leave an improper fraction with a whole number, so I'm going to set up a little work area here, and I'm going to turn this improper fraction, 6/5, into a mixed number. So I'm going to divide numerator by denominator, and if you remember, 5 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1, and label we're done now. My whole number is 1, my denominator is 5, my numerator is 1. So I know 6/5 is really 1 1/5. That's not my final answer. Don't forget to add your whole. So 3 plus 1 is 4, and my fraction stays the same. Okay, so my final answer is 4 1/5. Okay, so if you look at the fraction sticks, we actually have 1, 2, 3 wholes plus 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5, 6/5. So same thing that we have here, but we couldn't leave it that way. We had to turn it into a mixed number, okay, and combine that with the whole number. Okay, so let's take a look at another one. Bear with me while I clear my board. Okay, so here's another one. So same thing, we have the models. We're combining two separate sets of models. So this is 1 1/4, and this is 2 3/4. So I'm going to combine them, I'm going to add them. Okay, so I'm showing you, here we have the 1 1/4. I'm going to line up my numbers, and 2 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to start with the fraction column. This one's a little bit easier. So add the numerators. 1 plus 3 is 4. My denominator stays the same, and then I add my whole numbers. 1 plus 2 is 3. So my final answer is 3 4/4. However, you should be able to look at the 4/4 and say, wait a second, that's a whole number. So I'm going to add my 3 to the whole number, and my final answer is 4. Similar to what we have here, 1 whole, 2 wholes, 3 wholes. And then when we add these 4/4, that gives us another whole. So we really have 4 wholes, okay? Okay, let me clear my board. Let's do the next one. Okay, now this time we're subtracting, okay? Now here we have 2 wholes and 1/4, and we're going to take away 1 3/4, okay? So let me show you how to do that, okay? This is my whole, so I have to take 1 away and 3/4. So I'm going to take this away. That's the 1. But now I have to take away 3/4, but I only have 1/4 here. So take a look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to break this up into fourths. Now I have 4/4. I turn my whole into 4/4. And I'm going to take away, so we took away the 1 whole, I'm going to take away 3/4. Take away, take away, take away. I'm left with 1/4, 2/4. That's my final answer, okay? So let's take a look at when I set up my mixed numbers. Okay, so I take a look here, and I look at this 1 up here is smaller than the 3. So when that happens, I'm going to show you a shortcut, okay? We're going to turn these into improper fractions. Okay, so starting here, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. That's my numerator. 9/4. Okay, and with the fraction down here, 4 times 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Now I could subtract. 9 minus 7 is 2, and my denominator stays the same. Final answer, 2/4, which matches what we did here with the fraction sticks, okay? So it could get a little tricky, but just remember, if you can't subtract the fractions, a shortcut is to turn it into an improper fraction. Okay, I'm going to clear my board. I'll do one more. Okay. So this one, same thing. We have our 1 whole, and we're taking away, so we have, 2 3/4 minus 1 3/4. I'm taking away 1 whole and 3/4. This is what I'm taking away. So I'm going to take away the whole, and I'm going to take away the 3/4, and we're going to be left with 1 whole. So let's use the standard algorithm to check. So 2 3/4 minus 1 3/4. So if we look at the fraction column, 3/4 and 3/4, if I take that away, that gives me just a 0. Take a look at this example of simple subtraction, 29 minus 19. I know 9 minus 9 is 0, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Now here, when we subtract 3/4 minus 3/4, we actually don't write a 0, okay? If it makes you feel a little better, we could do a little dotted 0, but we don't. We just leave it blank. So I'm just going to cross those out. I'm going to leave that blank, and 2 minus 1 is 1. And notice why I don't put the 0, because then if I put a 0 there, that answer would actually give me 10. And that doesn't make sense, because I can't have 2 3/4 minus 1 3/4 and give me a 10. My answer is exactly 1 whole, and we proved it with our fraction sticks. Okay. All right, we have time for one more. Just want to make sure that you're entirely ready to work independently today. Okay, and there's no fraction sticks for this one, okay? Just want you to practice with the standard algorithm. Okay, because you'll see on the problem set today that there may be number lines or fraction sticks. They can be helpful tools, but they can get a little tricky. So I want you to see how to use the standard algorithm. So 1 4/5 plus 1 1/5. Starting with my fraction column, 4/5 plus 1/5 is 5/5, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So my final answer is 2 5/5. But again, you see the 5/5 and you know, wait a second, that's 1 whole. So I'm going to rewrite that as 1. And I'm going to add my 2 wholes plus my 1 whole. It gives me a solid 3. No fraction, just a 3. Okay, so I hope with these examples you'll be prepared to tackle the problems for today. Try your best. You will need paper and pencil to work things out, okay? And don't worry, if this was a little challenging for you, a little tricky, or you still were concerned about some things, we are going to practice this for the remainder of next week. So don't worry, this is not our only time doing this, okay? So take your time and good luck. Try your hardest. Have a great day.